So the only way that we have to really print a hard copy of our data out is to use reports in our database management system program. And a report will really take a query or information from a table, although we don't often print out a whole table because that can be quite a lot. But we can take that data and we can print it out using a report. So we're going to use the wizard to create our report. For forms and reports, it's much easier if we use the wizard. Then we don't have to go and manually set things up. So we're going to do that. So we're going to use the wizard to create the report. So if I click on that, it gives me a preview in the background, which is really helpful. I'm going to use that query that I've just made, and I'm going to go and get all of the fields that were represented there. Now, in the exam, you're unlikely to get too much information to fit on. So they will tell you which fields they would like you to display on the report. And it won't necessarily be all of them unless your database table doesn't have that many fields. So it'll usually be fairly easy to fit them in, but it is something we need to look at. Right, next step, labeling. Now you'll see this one, for some other reason, has got a very funny label. Here's the field name. That can't change because that's connected to your table, because remember, that's where the data is. But the label we can change. So what it says at the top, we can change that name if we want to. So for example, we could change that just to make it a little bit more. There we go. And we'll say next. Now, grouping, we don't want to fiddle with. I don't think you'll be asked to group things. Remember, in our query, we already sorted out our data so that it first sorted it by instrument and then by family name. So we don't really want to group it because that messes with our headings a little bit. And it's unlikely you're going to get asked to do that in the exam. So we'll leave that one. Remember, we don't want to add anything that we haven't been asked to do. We don't want to use the sort. Okay, this is very important. If you put the sort in, it again messes up the formatting for some other reason. So rather don't use that. And this is the one that we want to choose. It's called tabular. So you'll see what's going to happen here is that there's going to be a row of headings, and then there's going to be your records are going to occur underneath those headings. And the headings are in a separate section. If you choose any of the others, the headings then come into the details section, and that means that your headings get printed over and over and over again. So that's going to be great if you want to print something like a mailing label or something like that. But for our purposes, we just want our headings at the top and the details underneath. So we're going to leave it to say tabular. We're going to choose between landscape and portrait, and we're going to say next. Now we have a choice here. We can change the title of our report. Unfortunately, that doesn't put a heading onto the page like it does in Microsoft Access. We're going to have to go and put that on ourselves later, but save it with something sensible. And then we're going to choose between static and dynamic. So dynamic means it's going to change. So in other words, if you update the data in your database and then you go and run the report, it will have the new data inside the report or in the report. The static report will take a snapshot of your data at a particular point, so that, for example, at the end of the month, you could take a snapshot and it would then retain that information. It wouldn't update if you changed the data within the database. So we always want a dynamic report for our purposes, and we're going to go and have a look at that report once we're done. Okay, let's say finish. Okay, so I get my headings once at the top, Note that if you ask the report to sort your data, you will get those headings above every person, above every record. Okay? I don't get my headings again at the top of the page, which is a pity, the top of the next page. You can see that it is sorted out. So instrument first, and then the names after that. Okay, so first by instrument and then by surname, family name. The currency is not reflecting in here. Okay, this one never had currency because this was our field that we calculated, but this one was showing a currency. So we need to go and put that back on, and then we need to go and give this a heading and some other bits and pieces. Okay, so you'll see I'm in LibreOffice now, LibreOffice Writer. I can go and edit this document, and I can go and treat it like a word processing document at this point. So I could put my headings in, I could put my headers and footers in, etc. on this document before printing it out. And this is actually quite a nice feature because it means that if you get to finish, you've sorted out all the data issues and you come to a finished document, you can go and add in those bits and pieces without actually having to do that within the database program. It's a little bit easier to do things like headers and footers inside LibreOffice. But we're first going to go and make sure that the data that we've pulled out is looking like we want it to look. But we don't seem to have any issues here with things getting cut off, and this is a very important point. If you have something cut off, the examiner then can't see if that column of data is correct, and you'll definitely lose a mark for not all the information being visible or not all the headings being visible, but you might also lose marks because some of that data isn't visible and therefore it can't be marked depending on what can't be seen. So please be very, very careful. Make sure that that is all right. Okay, I'm going to close this document now. So it's not saved anywhere. If I double clicked on that report, it would open that report again and I'd see a new version. I want to go and edit that report now. So I'm going to right click, go to edit, and now I can go and see what's going on here. Okay, so for example, I wanted this to be first name as two separate things. So I click on that. Now on this right hand side here, I have a properties window. This button is a spanner and a screwdriver. I can turn that properties window on and off. So make sure it's on. If I double click on this label, I can come in here and I can make a change to the label name over there, and this one I want to change as well, and then I just click out of it and it'll change. Okay, I can change the size of those things if I want to. I wanted to try and make that cost week into a currency. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, so where is it over here? Formatted field. Here at the bottom, formatting. Okay, so the formatting of this I want to change, and that little box there with the three little dots, the ellipses, I can go and change that to currency, and I can go and choose any currency I want. Often in the exam they ask you for euros, possibly pounds, but usually these days euros. So you would have to go and find euros from that list. Could also be, I suppose, dollars. Doesn't really matter which one you choose. I did want to try and find American dollars. But you can see you've got, there we go, you've got quite a selection. Okay, so now when we go back and we go and click on this button, which is execute report, we should have dollars in that column. Fantastic. Let's see if we can get dollars on this one. So I'm going to click on, let's go find it, total cost, select that field, come down here to formatting and do currency, 2 decimal places, and change that as well to US dollars, and all looks good. Okay, horizontal alignment is saying left. I actually want it right aligned, don't I? And I want to do the same to that one. I want those 2 columns to be right aligned. Okay, I'm going to save. Remember, save, save, save. Every time you do something, you save. Please, please, please. If your computer crashes and you lose information which you have not saved, that is your problem. You do not get extra time to recover from that. Now I can go and say execute the report, and it's right aligned, and it has its dollars and it has its decimal places. So that's all looking much better. All of those instructions will be in the question in the exam. Okay, so I've closed that. Now we want, over here we have a page header and a page footer. And if I click on those orange blocks, you will see that this side properties box changes, and now I can see the properties of the page header. For example, I can go and change the size of it, or I can do other things like give it a color, okay, if I wanted to. So I have some control over that section from here. If I've got a field selected, I sometimes need to go and click somewhere else before I can go and select those side headings. Okay, so I've got a bit of control over those. I can also go and grab them over here and make them bigger or smaller. And I've also got some buttons in here which will allow them to shrink if there's data in them. So I need to get my name on every single page that I print out throughout this entire exam, whether they remind me to do it or not. I'm going to go and put my name on every single page. The best way to do that is to put it in a page footer. So I'm going to get a label. I'm going to go and put, oops, make it very big. I'm going to go and, now I need to go and change that label. So I'm going to double click on it. And I'm going to go into here where it says label. And I'm going to go and put my name, my candidate number, and my center number are going to go in that space. Okay. Oh, didn't do it. My name. So my candidate number is going to be something, and my center number is going to be something else. Go. Okay, so my name, candidate number, center number is going to be on every page. Save it. Have a look. Bottom of every page, my name, candidate number, center number. My name, candidate number, center number. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to kill that. Okay, so page header. Page header, maybe I want to put the date in the page header. So I'm going to select the page header. I'm going to go insert, or maybe I want to put page numbers in there. Page number on the left in the header. There it is. And maybe I want to go and put the date in there as well. and that's put the date underneath. Okay, so I could select that and I could drag it to where I want it to be. I could say I want it to be right aligned, and that should work for me. Save it. Have a look. Okay, this is not all the way to the right, so I need to go and sort that out. But that should appear on every page now. Okay, so that's how you would get your headers and footers in there. As I said, you could also do it in your LibreOffice document if you wanted to. That would be another way of doing it. But those page headers and footers are going to put things on every page. You do have the option of, let's go move that. You do have the option of adding a report header and a report footer. So the way to do that would be to right click inside the page header area and say insert a report header or footer. Okay, and it'll then put the space in. You could then use that space, put a label, remember not a text box, a label in there, and you could go and put your heading in there. And you could go and then format that using these controls up here. So you can go and choose a font. Never ever choose that font in an exam. And you can go and change the color and whatnot. Okay. So you can go and do all of that. I'm going to save it. Have a look at what it's going to look like. The report header should only appear at the top of the page. Okay, once at the top of the page. It won't appear on the second page. And you can see now I have 3 pages because that report headers push things onto the end. Okay. Right. So now in the footer, what we sometimes have to do is we have to go and add some things up. So say we wanted the total of all the costs for everything, and we wanted that to display down the bottom here. What we would be asked in the exam would be, first of all, to label it. So we would go and put a label field and say total cost for report, or whatever they asked us to label it as. And then we would go and use the text box button. So we go and add a text box in there. I'm going to put it in the report footer, but I'm going to put it underneath this total cost column so that it shows nicely. And I'm going to go and in the properties window, change to data, and I'm going to select from here function. Okay. Then I'm going to go and choose my field that I want to do my function on. So I'm going to choose total cost. And then from the function, I have got 3 choices. Accumulation means everything added together. So this is going to give me a total or a sum. Minimum is going to give me the lowest number in the list. Maximum is going to give me the highest number in the list. These are the things that you can do. So we're going to say accumulation. It's going to give the scope as the whole report. In other words, it's going to go and look at the whole thing to go and add up everything in the whole report. If we had grouped our data, we could have gone and used a group, I think, as the scope. So we could have added up the amounts just for the clarinet players. But we haven't done that. So we're going to go and add up for the whole report. Okay, save. And let's go and execute our report and see what happens. So right down at the bottom, that's not in a very nice place at all. So we need to go and move that over a bit, but it is likely done it. Okay, that looks about the right amount of money. If you really want to, you could go and add up all of those numbers and see if it is in fact right, but I'm pretty certain that that is the correct number, but it doesn't have our dollar sign. So let's go back, close that one. And let's see why is this not in a nice place? So let's go to general, let's say right aligned. Let's change the formatting to say currency, American dollars, and okay, save that, review it. Still in a funny place, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe we need to go and make that block a bit smaller. Okay, but you get the idea. It's there. So, and there's my label that I put in. Okay. Now, if I had to go and change one of the values or add a new record to my table and then come back and run the report again, it would all look exactly like this, and all of these numbers would change accordingly with the new information. Okay. If I go and edit the document in my LibreOffice Writer, and then editing a static version of that document. So I want to minimize that as much as possible. But if in the exam you feel like you really need to do that, you can. So the one thing I'd like to do is get this this row over here with the titles in it onto my second page. So I'm going to say edit my document. And you can see everything's in a table. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a row to my table, and then I'm going to go and copy this data here, Control C to copy it and paste it into there. And then on this one I'm going to go and insert one above, and I'm going to go and Control V to paste into there. And oh, you know what I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to go and put that where I want it because it was annoying me. And so now this is what I would print out in my, this is what I would print out and hand in as my report. Okay, so I can go and put finishing touches to that report after the fact. But be aware that this and this one also wasn't in the middle, was it? So be aware that you can do that. You do have the tools that you need to make this look good after the fact, and then I would just print that out like a normal word processing document. Okay, at this point I would save a copy of that as well so that I had it on my in my files, and that if necessary the query could be answered about whether or not I'd created that document, because there'd be evidence of it in my files. But all that your examiner is going to get is what you print out. Okay, great stuff. So that's how you create a report, and you create a total in your report, and how you make it all look great.